Via. Hello, hello, buongiorno a tutti. We are here in Cremona, Italy, and today we talk about the bass bar. It's a very important detail, I would say. It doesn't make the sound or the characteristics of an instrument sound, but it is fundamental in order that the instrument is quick responding, that it has a big sound, that the entire top is vibrating very good, since it is a bar inside which transmits the vibration towards the upper and the lower part of the top. Okay? And that's why we have here a top already with the bass bar glued in, and a certain length from the ribs to the bass bar. It's exactly 4 centimeters. And at the time of Stradivari, there was no bass bar ever being made like this. Okay, so there is no Stradivari instrument, no Guarneri, no Storioni, never was with such a long bass bar. This is because now we have the modern instrument and things have changed. Okay. So at the time of these great masters, the bass bar was much smaller. It was about between, because it was very, everybody made it a little bit its own style, between 13 centimeters to probably 18, 20 centimeters. 20 is already pretty long, but some pictures from old instruments we see are quite longer ones, but never this long. Here it is 27 and even a little bit more centimeters long. Yeah, just with you take my fingers, it's exactly 20 centimeters. Huh? Okay. Oh Madonna, Edgar has so long, big hands. Huh? No, anyway. So the nice thing is, for the ones who just don't know how to do it, you know, you just close the instrument, you don't see it, and then it's fine. Okay? And this is the main problem, because you don't know how the maker did his bass bar, how accurate he did it, how huge patience he showed while he was fitting the bass bar, how he glued it in, how he shaped it, and this is actually already a big problem for many instruments. Now, I'm sorry that I cannot go now to all the makers and say, give me your instrument, I open it up and put the new bass bar in my style. This is the sickness of all craftsman people. They always believe they can make it better, and I have the same sickness, okay? But I definitely believe that the way I make the bass bar is extremely good, and you can rely that this is helping you, that the instrument is responding very good for beginners as for professionals, and that it gives the best tone you can get out of this instrument, okay? And therefore, I'm very, very picky with all the people working in my workshop that they cannot make a bass bar and glue it in without that the bass bar has been checked how I make it. Very, very important detail. Now, for a long time ago, no, stop. We have to make first so. The top is out of spruce, and the bass bar is a different piece of wood glued in. It's not that you carve the top and then you leave it like it has been made like 100 years ago or some factory instruments, okay? So, to do so, we have, and I show you, if we have a tree of some tops here, okay? These are some rough pieces, and many pieces together like this make the whole tree, long tree, okay? So we split, we cut the tree to the length in middle, a quarter, eighth, and then we have these pieces here. Now these ones here are well seasoned, they're even very dark, and then I plane them and then become white again, okay? So let's say this one here has a crack inside, so I won't make a violin out of it, so I decide this one I use to make bass bars, okay? But even if I would now use a piece of wood to make top. Then I would take this piece before I cut it in two pieces, and then I joined it to make the nice top here, which is then at the very end inside like this. I cut a slice of piece down here. Hold on, I have to show you. I hope I'm in the camera. Up. So we cut here a piece, I don't see, okay, like this. So I have a thin piece. So I cut this down, you know, Stradivari cut it by hand, or one of his 15 employees did it. We have not 15 employees, but we have a bandsaw. So we and we cut it down, okay? So then we have a piece like this, okay? This one is nothing else than the piece which was here, okay? Now this one here, I'm sorry I cannot use it because it's a little bit too short, but it's good to show you. To take this piece of wood, when I cut it down, I'm looking forward that things are as precise as good. So I take this piece, and then I take a chisel, and I split it. Now in this case, it is splitting very straight because I have split it already on this side, right? If you have a lot of patience, you can make some sound posts. Otherwise, you take this one, and this one here, usually this is exactly how the grain is going. So in this case, the grain is a little bit going like this, and I like it if it is like a little bit like this, since the top is a little bit like this. So then I would use it like this inside, okay? So in order to use this inside, then I take a pencil, and I sign it like this. I give a rough cut. I pay attention that the beginning and the rest are quite equal. I draw another line here, let's say 10 centimeters or 10 millimeters, and I cut it again. And then I put it into the top. Now, how I have learned it in violin making school, you just put it in here, and they didn't do it too precisely. Then they fitted it, and after 10 or 15 minutes, glue was hot, you glued it inside. Nowadays, it takes me days. Yeah? And if I say days, you can ask here people working in my workshop. It takes them, the very first one, even more than a week. Yeah? And there is another thing where it has to be. It's exactly precise measurement. We measure very precisely to know exactly where the middle is, the center line. And from the center line, then 19.2.5, 19.5 if it's for professional use. Yeah? So on my master instrument, I put it on 19.5, so the bassbar is a quarter of a millimeter more outside, okay? Which means that it's responding a little bit more difficult. A quarter of a millimeter, you would say this man is a maniac. It's true. A quarter of a millimeter on the bassbar in one position or in another is deciding if it is a beginner instrument or if it's a master instrument, okay? There's a huge difference, certainly. Later on, you can always adjust things also with the size of a bridge. So on an old instrument, you measure perfectly where the bass bar is, and then you try out of your stock of bridges with different widths. Then you choose the right bridge. So once you know exactly the measurement where the bridge, the sound post should be, and there I invite you to look also some videos from the very beginning of my video making. You will see where the sound post is. I even design it inside with some lines. On all my instruments here you can see it very nicely. I design it very precisely where the sound post should be, and on the opposite side where the bass bar should be. And this position is so important that even on a Sainton violin, where the F holes are very narrow, I don't remember now how much it is, but it is like 36.6, very close. I still put the bass bar where it should be, and then it goes over the F hole, and then here, if you watch carefully, then I just cut into the, you see that? Into the bass bar, I cut out the piece which is disturbing when I look at the instrument in the front, because otherwise you would be, you know, on the half of the eye, there's a bass bar underneath passing by, and you don't want that. But the position of the bass bar is so important that if I hear they stay 1 millimeter far away of the F hole, this is completely bullshit, okay? It's very important that the position is exactly there, okay? And on old instrument, you cannot move the F holes, okay? The only thing you can move is the bass bar to its perfect and ideal position. So you put this inside. This is a very specific case. On a Stradivari, for instance, Stradivari didn't put the F holes on 36 together. It's rather 42, but it's not all instruments 42, okay? So this is, I would say, on the bass bar, the most important thing. What is this? Okay. Now, the first important thing is the position. The second important thing, which I believe, is how to fit it, okay? And much later on, even so I started this video about the wood, maybe on 4th, 5th, or 6th position is actually the property of the wood and how many grains. Believe me, there are people talking and I don't know what they're doing and searching super fine grained spruce, and then they mess up with the position. They don't fit it well. They glue it in wrong. They give a bad shape. I would rather prefer that you put a bass bar, a mahogany bass bar, but in the correct position, than the super trooper perfect spruce for the bass bar and then in the wrong position, okay? I hope you get this whole picture. Now, another thing regarding the bass bar is how do I fit the bass bar, with or without pressure? Pressure means that if I have my bass bar, if it has spring, if I force it or not. Now, I don't have now the right thing because I wanted to show you something. Before we talk about spring, if you make spring, you have to put the top on a metal ring like this. Because in case you make a pressure spring and you don't have blocked your top on a metal ring, your spring actually, instead of pushing up your top, is actually pulling it inside, okay? And is doing exactly the opposite of what you actually initially wanted to do it. We had discussions 20, 25 years ago, which took days and long nights and lots of good Italian wine. French makers, Italian makers, German makers, and me at my house for long discussions, and we all at the very end agreed that you have to use a metal ring. Indeed, nowadays I see more and more people using these metal rings, and when you buy it, it's always expensive, and everybody thinks, oh, it's far too expensive, I make it myself. And then, so I would probably just buy it how it is, but whatever. I will maybe search a company where you can find a metal ring and then you get it. You only buy it once in your life, and then every instrument is great. You block the top with small clamps on it. I put leather on the other side so I don't damage the top. I block it, and then I position the bass bar in the right position. Now I show you how that looks like when it is done. It looks like something like this, okay? I have these blocks, leather, these clamps. I have the top. I measured everything the perfect way, exactly the position how I told you. And then I have these small wooden pieces, which are actually from the bass bar. I just cut it, I cleaned them very nicely. And it fits as precise as possible inside. So it doesn't have any, the direction like this is not very exactly 90 degrees, but it's not 90 degrees, not even here. It's a little bit of compromise of something like this, okay? So I put this in here, and then I start working on the bass bar. Now this one here, I wanted to show you how I put it here into the top with how much spring. And to have something like this, it takes me a few days, yeah? And I try to have a position or a spring in order that it is moving on one dot back and forth. And if I close my eyes and I'm using the spring, that I have the impression that it is like a smooth, fitted, perfect, without any disturbing point in between. In the beginning, you don't know how it should be, and you're pretty much in the land of nowhere. And the more you do it and the more you work on it, the better you become. I also use in the very beginning chalk, and I put it on the top, and I put the bass bar inside, tuck, 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 a little bit, just a little bit, you take it out. Usually on one top, even if it takes 2 or 3 days fitting it, I myself, maybe I'm a little bit quicker, but it's not a question of fitting it in a short time. It's better to once, even me myself, once I finished it fitting, I don't glue it in, and I sleep over at least one night. And you will be surprised about how you perceive certain things you made yourself the next day with a certain distance. And you look at it and you say, wow, and this one I wanted to glue in last night. Let's take a little bit here away. So then I take my plane and I tick, and I take away and I check it, and once again, and until it is perfect, okay? Now this becomes a long video. There's another small thing. Once you have made your bass bar or you have your instrument finished and you can see from the outside a little bit, the top a little bit deformed or signs a little bit the bass bar, for many years, probably 20 years, I thought it is because the bass bar has not been fitted properly. And this is not the reason. It is because I was gluing it with hot glue, how you have to glue it, and then I was cleaning it with too much water once it is all the clamps and everything on. So around it got wet, it got the glue, and underneath there was only the glue, and this didn't make the same thing. So if you don't want that it is signing your top of the outside, just don't clean it with hot water too much, and here it is glued in and you don't see anything, okay? It's just a small advice for the ones who are making them themselves. Okay, I think we just leave it like this because it's already a lot of information, and the ones who are interested in this subject are looking forward for the next video regarding the bass bar. I believe so. There is so much information. Watch this video more than once. I hope you enjoyed it. Have fun. Bye bye. Ciao, ciao. Ciao, ciao.